Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being here. My name is Robert Rutledge. I am an aspiring video game music composer. Today we'll be picking up where we left off last time. If you haven't watched it, we left off right around high school. This wasn't really a great time in my life. I'm going to try to be objective as possible. This video is going to be divided into 3 parts. My first college, Cuyahoga Community College, also known as Tri-C. Then I transferred to Ohio State, and after that I took a gap year, and I'll be discussing my first job. Let's jump right in. Okay, so Tri-C. I need to back up a little bit. In high school, I decided I wanted to be a professional drummer. Applying to colleges as a musician is a little longer process than for the rest of people. You have to pass an audition to get in. I only applied to like 3 or 4 colleges because, the audition process is kind of a pain. I had friends who applied to like 10 or 12 colleges, and I didn't have time for that. Also, back in this day, I'm sure it's changed now, but you had to actually go to the school to do the audition. I only did 3 or 4 auditions. I don't want to make excuses here, but I think my playing style at that time in high school that I had developed wasn't very in tune with auditions. Usually drums are an accompanying instrument, and I don't want to say we shouldn't be held to the same standard as other musicians, but it was always just very awkward and uncomfortable going in there, usually playing on someone else's drum set. And yeah, I failed them all. Cuyahoga Community College, obviously it's a community college. I didn't have to do an audition, they just accepted me. And the cool thing about them was that they had what's called an articulation agreement with Berklee College of Music. I would be learning the same materials for a fraction of the cost. So I went to Tri-C. I was in their jazz studies program, great program, no complaints there. The classes were fun and engaging, although they were a little bit on the easy side. It did feel like a good fit. I took my classes way too seriously at this time because I didn't really know how the world worked, and I think I put way too much importance in, I need to get an A in this class because someone's going to look at my transcript and be impressed or whatever. I was very naive at this point. I was practicing drums about 6 hours a day, which is pretty standard for music students, I'd say. All right, so now we're going to talk about the not so fun part of this chapter of my life, my living arrangement. I was living in a house with 3 other guys who were also musicians, a guitarist, a bassist, a violinist, and myself, a drummer, all living under the same roof. What could possibly go wrong? It all started out very well. The first semester was a blast. And I'd like to emphasize that the guitarist and the bassist and I were never in a band together. Obviously, the violinist was kind of in a different genre altogether, so he never really played with us. But the guitarist, bassist, and I all were rock musicians. When we first moved in together, we jammed all the time. We were all cool with each other. Second semester is when things started going downhill. The guitarist and bassist started inviting another drummer over. Basically, they no longer wanted to jam with me. I took it very personally. I felt betrayed. I felt jealous of the other drummer. I felt I wasn't as good as a drummer as he was. And so I was driven into a practicing frenzy. I said 6 hours a day isn't enough. I want to shoot for 7 hours, 8 hours. What ended up happening, and I'm hoping to make a whole video about this, was that I started getting wrist pain and also numbness and tingling in my hands. So yeah, this was kind of like an oh shit moment. My music career hasn't even taken off yet, and it's already basically over. Regardless, I stayed active as a musician at this time, not only in my classes, but outside of school as well. I played in a Brazilian samba school. I was in a classical band with a 50-piece band. I played with a rapper. I was basically just really wanting to get out of the house at this point. It was just not a very good environment. There was substance use going on, not just on the weekends, but during the week as well. At the end of the second semester, I decided Tri-C was no longer a good fit for me. My living situation obviously wasn't very great. And then my drum teacher, I didn't really have the best rapport or the best relationship with him. In retrospect, at this point, I probably should have taken the gap year, but I was too proud and I said, hey, I want to transfer to Ohio State. And basically, the only reason I wanted to transfer to Ohio State was because of Jim Rupp. Jim Rupp is the drum instructor at Ohio State. We set up an audition in the spring, and I actually passed that. So that's about the only audition I've ever passed in my life. All right, so that takes us to Ohio State. I fucking hated it. Basically, the big thing about Ohio State and kind of why I didn't even really want to go there in the first place was because I always thought people would just wanted to be there because of the football team. And it turned out that was kind of true. A lot of the guys who lived on the same floor as me in the dorm room were just kind of like that, oh, I'm here to party mentality, which really turned me off because I was there to learn. I didn't hate the School of Music per se. It was definitely a very different vibe than what I was used to at Tri-C. I remember being like in the practice halls and just hearing like opera singers and being like, oh God, what am I getting myself into? Nothing against opera singers. Much more formal, much more classical. The highlight of my week was always going for a drum lesson with Jim. He's just such an amazing teacher and really understanding. He was the one who really emphasized, and remember, I'm going through this injury right at this point. It hadn't gotten better on its own yet. So he was the one who really stressed, don't do surgery. I feel like I had a giant chip on my shoulder this entire time. I won't go into details, but I did get into some bad habits. I wasn't really as active as a musician in Columbus as I was in Cleveland. It was just a bad time in general. At the end of that school year, I had something called a jury. Apparently, auditioning for a music school isn't enough. You have to do another audition at the end of the school year to see if you can go on, which is kind of some BS if you ask me, but hey, what do I know? You have to prepare a piece. Again, I don't like playing just drums in front of people because I think it's kind of dumb. But you have to play a piece in front of, I think it was 5 faculty members, and 2 of them approved and the others said no. So I failed my jury and I basically said, fuck this. That brings us to my first job. At this point, I've moved back in with my parents, no shame in that. Drumming wasn't really going very well at all, and I decided I wanted to get a job. I had never had a job in my life at this point. I was only 20, but I said, hey, I want a job. I want to start earning some money because I'd never really earned money through drums, through music. So I started applying to places. No one was really interested. And finally, my friend from back in our first video, the guy who was supposed to be the bassist, he was working at a local record shop that also sold movies. So it was like a local used media store, we'll call it. And he basically said, oh, I'll tell my boss that my friend's coming in. He kind of downplayed that we were like best friends growing up. And I went in for the interview and I got the job. And yeah, I think it was a good fit for me. It wasn't anything glamorous, but it was special. Basically, I had to just like clean used video game cases or music cases, CDs, back when CDs were a thing. And I'd sell them when someone came up to the counter. I think it aligned with my values for the most part. The fact it was like a mom and pop shop. So I worked there for about 2.5 years before quitting. It wasn't very fulfilling in the long term, but I think it was a good job for a 20-year-old kid to have, even if I had big dreams of being a touring musician. It was a humbling moment. I think I did learn a bit about the world at this point, kind of how the world works. All right, so that's about all the time I have for today. We'll pick up where we left off in the next one. Thank you so much for being here. If you liked this video, if you'd like to see more, please consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.